My name is Danko Emmanuel Kenjo, and I welcome you to KenTech 96 TV. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about superposition. And superposition is also a theorem used to simplify circuits. So the superposition theorem states that a circuit with multiple sources. So if you have a multiple power source in a circuit and you want to analyze the circuit, superposition is telling us that a circuit with multiple power sources can be analyzed by evaluating one power source at a time. So you take one power source, you deactivate the other one, then you solve for the current and voltage flowing through the circuit. Once you are done, you deactivate that one, then you work with the other power source. Then you also calculate the voltage and current through the circuit. Then these are the steps to follow whenever you want to solve question with respect to superposition theory. 1, you are supposed to replace all power sources except one. So even if you have about 3 or 4 power sources, you are supposed to replace all of them except one. Now, in replacing them, if you have a voltage source and you want to replace it, you need to represent it with a short circuit. And anytime you have a current source, if you want to deactivate it, you represent it with an open circuit. So replace voltage source with a short circuit and a current source with an open circuit. Then you calculate the voltage and current due each individual source. So once you are working with one particular source, you calculate the current and the voltage. Then lastly, you are supposed to repeat step 1 and 2. So if you have about 2 or 3 sources, you take it one after the other and you calculate the voltage and current flowing through all the resistors. So let's use superposition theorem to solve this particular question. So we are supposed to use superposition theorem to solve this question. And the question is, find the current through the 4 ohm resistor using superposition theorem. So we are supposed to find the current which is flowing through this 4 ohm resistor using superposition theorem. And these are the steps that we are supposed to follow. And the first one is replace all power sources except one. So here we have 2 power sources, a voltage source of 28 volts and another voltage source of 7 volts. So we are going to replace the voltage source except one. Then since it's a voltage source, we represent it with a short circuit. So now let's calculate the current flowing through the 4 ohm resistor. So now we realize that, let's say this is R1, R2, R3. Now to calculate the current flowing through R1, we realize that R2 is in parallel with R3. And all this is in series with R1. So we are going to have 1 parallel, 2 in series with 4. And this is going to produce an answer of 4.667. Then from Ohm's law, we know that V is equal to IR. So our I will be equal to V over R. So V here is 28 and R is giving us 4.667. So if I simplify this, I'm going to have a current of 6 amps. So what it means is that the current which is produced by the 28 volt is 6 amps, and it is that same current that flows through resistor R1. So the current flowing through R1 here is 6 amps. Now let's move on to the next step. So now we are done with one particular source. So let's move on to the next source. So this is 7 volts. Then we will deactivate this voltage source. Then we calculate the current flowing through R1. So here we realize that R1 and R2 are connected in parallel, and the resultant is in series with R3. So R1 in parallel with R2, and the resource is in series with R3, which is 4 parallel 2 in series with 1. We are going to arrive at 7/3. Then to calculate the current which is produced by the 7-volt source, V is equal to IR from Ohm's law. Then I will be equal to V/R. Now the voltage source is 7 and the resistor or the resistance is 7/3. So this is going to produce a current of 3 amps. So this will also produce a current of 3 amps. Current generated by the 3-volt source is 3 amps. But we want to know the current flowing through this 4 ohm resistor. So we need to use what we call the current division rule to calculate the current which is flowing through R1. And the current which will flow through R1 will be equal to R2 over R1 plus R2 times I. So we are going to have 2/4 plus 2 times 3. And this will be equal to 1 amp. So the current which is flowing through resistor R1 when 7-volt source is active is 1 amp. But the question, we are supposed to calculate the current flowing through the 4 ohm resistor using superposition theorem. So when the first source is acting, we had a current of 6 amps. When the second voltage source was active, we had a current of 1 amp. But let's look at the direction. The 6 volt is opposing the 1 amp current. So the total current that will flow through R1. So total current which will flow through, total current flowing through R1 will be equal to 6 amps minus 1 amp, which will be equal to 5 amp. So using superposition theorem to calculate the current flowing through resistor R1, the current will be equal to 5 amps. Please thank you for watching Tech 9060. Kindly subscribe for more updates. Thank you.